For the Detroit Lions, one of the biggest questions that remained as to how successful they were going to be in 2025 has finally been answered. But it's the way it's been answered that should be making Lions fans absolutely ecstatic. We're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. It doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, folks, as we all know, there was one last piece of information, or in this case, a huge piece of information that needed to be answered when we were talking about the Lions' upcoming 2025 season. And obviously, what information I'm referring to here is the information of how the schedule was going to break down for the Detroit Lions. The reason I'm saying this is because obviously when it comes to the Lions, we already know that they are a very, very, talented team. They're a very successful team. This is a team that over the last 4 years has completely transformed itself. It has completely rebuilt itself into one of the best units in the NFL. Again, I've said this before in the past. I'll say it again here. When you go from being 3-13-1 to 9-8 to 12-5 to 15-2, you have made yourself now into one of the most successful teams in the NFL. And you've done it the hard way. You've done it the right way. You've taken everything that the NFL has given you as far as things that were either good or not, and you have made yourself into a team that they simply cannot ignore. They have to recognize you, they validate you, and they have shown that, hey, we recognize that what you have done has not only worked, but it's also very successful. And as we all know in the NFL, everything's about profit, everything's about entertainment. You have shown, the NFL has been shown by the Lions that they are a very profitable, they are a very entertaining team in the NFL. Now, when we're talking about the upcoming 2025 season, everybody and their brother was all like, okay, we know the Lions are successful, we know the Lions are entertaining, we know they're talented. But the one thing that everybody was very curious about was, okay, we know that the Lions have these opponents. It's supposedly one of the most difficult schedules that the Lions have not only gotten in a long time, but it's also one of the most difficult schedules by strength of winning percentage by opponents from 2024 that was going into 2025. And a lot of people were like, okay, how is that going to impact when we get to the 2025 schedule? How are they going to break it down? How are they going to list the games? How are the Lions going to have these games stacked up so that way it's potentially something that they can win? And I got to admit, I myself was very curious about this because it's like, okay, we already know that a lot of the teams that the Lions are playing this year, they've either beaten or we already know that they are a very, very successful team in comparison, a very talented team in comparison to most of the teams that they're playing against, most of the opponents that they have. But again, the schedule very much is going to influence, the schedule is very much going to tell how the Lions are when it comes to the upcoming season. Because it's like, okay, if you have a schedule where it is stacked, and it's like you've got one great opponent after another, that's going to make it very hard to build momentum. That's going to make it very hard to try and get yourself up and running. And I was like, okay, the Lions have all of these great opponents that we're going to be playing this year. We have the Eagles, we have the Ravens, we have the Commanders. We have, obviously, some really damn good opponents that we're playing. But when the news finally was released and the information finally made public, how the Lions' schedule was actually broken down, how the NFL had made the Lions' schedule, if you watched my live stream last night, I mean, I was absolutely ecstatic. I thought that the NFL could not have gifted the Lions a better schedule based upon the opponents that they were playing had they tried. I don't know if they did or didn't, because I know that usually how they break down things for the NFL schedule, it's now all put into a computer program, and the computer program will say, hey, based upon this, this is what we're doing. So again, I don't know how much actual human influence was actually put into making this decision, but I would imagine to some degree there was. But when you take a look at the Lions' schedule for the upcoming 2025 season, I said it last night, I'll say it again here, even more convinced. This is a beautiful schedule. This is an awesome schedule because what it does is it allows the Lions to have time to get themselves in a momentum. It allows them to get into a place where it's like, okay, we've now built up some steam. We're now ready to continue on. And they don't have to worry about, okay, every time we turn around, we're constantly having to try and, get our bearings. We're constantly having to rebuild momentum. We're constantly having to get our feet put underneath us. And for me, that shows itself from week 1 all the way virtually down to week 18. Again, I said it last night when I was actually, talking about this live when the information had been released, but the way the Lions' schedule is set up is that it is very balanced. It's very spread out. There's not really a period of time where the Lions have to consistently worry a whole hell of a lot about, okay, we have all these opponents that are going to be really, really tough. Excuse me. Pardon me. And then, you know what? We have to try and get through this period of time. There's only one part of the schedule that's really like that. And as I said last night, that is from like weeks 10 to week 15. Because during that time frame, the Lions do have quite a number of opponents that are going to be difficult for them. Not necessarily difficult in that they can't win, but it's going to be difficult based upon, okay, when you're playing them as far as what the date is, what the time slot is, and then all of the other stuff that's going on. Because from week 10 to week 15, the Lions have to play the Commanders and the Eagles back-to-back. But they've also got the Giants are in there. They've got the Cowboys in there. They've got the Rams in there. The way I look at this schedule is that the NFL pretty much knew that they're like, okay, we know the Lions are successful. We know they're a very damn good team. We know that they are a Super Bowl contending team. But the way they set it up was to, in essence, make sure that the Lions never really had a moment where it's like, okay, this is just overwhelming. Like the entire deck is stacked against us. Because the way the schedule breaks down, it's like, hey, we have teams that we know we've beaten in the past. We have teams that we know that we can handle. We have teams that we know that, yeah, even though it's going to be a tough matchup, even though it's going to be a difficult matchup, we can still get through it. And I know some people are probably going to be like, even though they didn't watch the live stream last night, the first question they're going to ask is, oh, well, based upon the schedule, David, are you changing what you think the Lions can do this year? No. In fact, I'm probably going to double down on what I said previously before the schedule was officially, the news was broken and released. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. My thought process has always been that the Lions were going to have a floor of winning anywhere between 12 to 13 games. And I said the ceiling, the maximum amount of games that the Lions are going to win is about 16 games. The reason why I wasn't going to be one of those people that say, oh, the Lions are going to go, 17-0 or 18-0, whatever the Thunder it is, and be like, oh, they're going to have a perfect season is because that is damn near impossible. There's a reason why in the entirety of the NFL, there are only 2 teams that during the regular season, as far as modern football is concerned, have won every single game. And obviously the teams I'm talking about are the 1972 Dolphins and obviously the 2007 Patriots. And it's like, dude, when you take a look at the schedule, the Lions have definitely got a lot of teams on there, and the way the schedule is broken down, they have a lot of opportunities down on that schedule where they can start racking up and they can start stacking wins. But as I've always stated, the one team that is going to be the most difficult for us is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. And thankfully, the way the NFL broke the schedule down, we play the Baltimore Ravens, if I recall correctly, I think it's week 3. And the reason why I'm so happy about the schedule is for a couple of reasons. The first reason why is because most of the away games, one of the biggest concerns that a lot of Lions fans had, and not just Lions fans, the NFL at large, like the NFL analysts, the NFL commentators, was, okay, the Lions are going to have a lot of away games, which are going to feature them playing outdoors. If you take a look at it, most of the outdoor games that the Lions have this year are going to be played when the weather is going to be supposedly fine. Now, obviously, we don't know what the weather is going to be until the actual day. We don't know if it's going to be a lot of wind. We don't know if it's going to be wet or anything else. But it's like, listen, that is a hell of a lot better than potentially playing out in the cold and playing out in these nasty elements, which usually make it very difficult for just about any team to play in, unless that's what they're used to playing in. The Lions are now a dome team. They have been for decades. They haven't had an outdoor stadium, I think, since before the Pontiac Silverdome was built. So it's like, okay, now we take a look at what we have. Most of the games where we're playing outdoors, the weather should be fine. And when we take a look at how the Lions have played in the past couple of years when they've been playing outdoors, when the weather's been fine, it makes no difference to when they're playing inside and it's a controlled element. So that's one thing that absolutely makes me very happy. The only game where that might potentially prove to be a problem is definitely going to be the last game of the year when we have to go to Chicago to play them in their own home element, because the last game of the year is usually at the very end of January, beginning of February, which tells me, okay, this is going to be a really nasty outdoor game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. Probably going to be snow. It's not going to be a fun time for the Lions. But you know what? We've seen the Lions play in bad element games before. Hell, when they went to the Green Bay Packers last year, that was not a very good weather game for them. It was, I wouldn't say cold, but it was definitely uncomfortable because if I recall correctly, it was like in the high 30s or 40s. And it was wet, so it was not a comfortable game then. The game when we went to Chicago last year, yeah, it was sunny, but it was cold, and again, not exactly a great element game for the Lions. But yet, in both of those games, they met the challenge, they rose to it, and they found a way to win the game. So I know a lot of people were concerned about, okay, we have all these away games we're going to be playing outdoors. How's the schedule going to look when we're playing those games? The way the Lions got their schedule, I would say about 70 to 75% of those away games that we really have to worry about are going to be played during a time in the year when playing outdoors shouldn't be a problem. So that's one thing that I was really, really happy about, because I was like, okay, if the NFL has most of the Lions away games where they're playing outdoors towards the first half of the schedule, we should be fine. So that was one thing I was really happy about. That was one thing I thought the Lions got a really great gift from the NFL. The second thing that the Lions got a great gift from the NFL is obviously, again, and this is more a reward based upon how they've been playing in the past, primetime games. I can't remember the exact number, but if I recall correctly, I think the Lions have like freaking 6 primetime games without even including the Thanksgiving game that they play annually, and also without including the day where they're playing on Christmas Day against the Minnesota Vikings. Think about that. The Lions used to be a team that never, ever got primetime billings. The only time you would ever see them on nationally televised television was Thanksgiving, because they had been doing that since the freaking 1960s. So that was a traditional time slot for them. That was a traditional game for them. But now it's like, dude, the Lions have an absolute crap ton of primetime games. Now, I know for some people, the biggest concern about the primetime games is the quick turnaround from when you have a primetime game and then you have to go to the very next week and you have a shortened week of preparation, whether it's only 5 days, whether it's only, 4 days, whatever the case might be. But it's like, listen, because of the fact that the NFL has made it to where the Lions have had more and more of these primetime games, especially over the last 2 years. They have shown that they are able to handle the quick turnaround from being able to play those games and then get ready to play a regular game on Sunday, whether it's the 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock showing, whatever the case might be. So I'm not particularly worried about that. Plus, on top of that, whenever the Lions have played in primetime, I think the record is, ever since Dan Campbell took over for the Lions, they have an 11-1 primetime showing as far as their record. So that shows that in primetime, the Lions, they see the bright lights, they see the pressure, and they're like, we can handle this. We're good with this. This is not something that's going to faze us. So the fact that the Lions got a absolute boatload of primetime games, again, reaffirms that the NFL views the Lions as a successful team. It reaffirms that the Lions are viewed by the NFL as a successful team, and as I said earlier, an entertaining team, because the Lions don't exactly have a big market when it comes to television slots. They're close to one in Chicago, but Detroit has not been known as a big market for television slots or for television entertainment. So the fact that the Lions have as many primetime games as they have shows that the NFL has bought into what the Lions are doing, and they have rewarded them handsomely with a lot of primetime slots. That's the second thing about the schedule that really makes me very happy and thinks that the Lions got a great gift of a schedule from the NFL, considering what it could have been versus what it actually is. The third thing that absolutely makes me ecstatic about the schedule is that the Lions do not have to worry about a whole bunch of traveling through various time zones and constantly having to readjust themselves to playing in different time zones. Think about it. The Lions being as popular as they are, the NFL could have stated, oh, well, you know what? We're going to give you an international game. We're going to start using you to help spread our brand even further. The NFL didn't do that. In fact, think about this, and I said this on my live stream last night. The Vikings, one of our division rivals, they got screwed so bad with that whole formula, with that whole breaking of the schedule, because they literally have to play 2 international games in back-to-back weeks. I'm telling you this right now. For anybody that has watched the NFL as long as I have, or even longer, you realize that one of the things that players thrive on, one of the things that players require is routine. They have to have stuff that they're used to, and it has to be something that they can maintain and be ready for over a week-to-week period. That's as long as the NFL schedule is and as grueling as it is. But when you have, with the Minnesota Vikings, a period where for half of a month you are now having to go completely out of the country, and now you're having to play 6, 7, 8 hours ahead of when you normally would have played, that is going to mess with their rhythm so damn bad. It's really going to give them a hard transition period from when, okay, you know what, the game before they have to go to the international games, during the international games, and then the week or two after it, because it's like their entire normal time schedule, their entire normal routine is going to get freaking, grasped by the root and just completely thrown all to hell. That's going to be a huge deal for them. And especially with the fact that they're dealing with a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy who, number one, did not play last year. Number two, has never played an international game or played a game in international soil on an international time zone. That is going to really throw a huge monkey wrench in their whole ability to maintain that, what's the word I'm looking for here? That momentum going into the season from when they start it to also when they end it. And if I recall correctly, I think I read it somewhere, that the Lions have one of the shortest travel plans out of all NFL teams this year. I think they're like ranked 4th as far as least amount of air miles that they have to travel. So the Lions got a really great schedule in terms of that as well. Now the final thing that I'm really happy, super freaking happy about with this schedule is the bye week. I know some people may not look at the bye week with as much importance as I do, but having the bye week where the Lions got it this year, you could not have asked for a better bye week if the Lions could have gotten it maybe 1 week later. Because typically when it comes to the bye week, teams want their bye weeks in the middle of the season. As early as week 8 to as late as week 10. That's about as right smack dab in the middle of a season as you possibly can ask for it. Week 9 is that absolute sweet spot. You want it in week 9. But if you can get it from week 8 to week 10, you're sitting pretty. At that point then, you've won. And for the Lions, not only did they get a great bye week because they got theirs in week 8 this year, which compared to last year when theirs was in I think it was week 5 or week 6, something like that, that is going to be a huge benefit to them. Because again, if you go back to last year, the Lions had a really early bye week, and with all of the injuries that they had, for lack of a better term, that kind of screwed them over because it's like, hey, the reason why I want the bye week in the middle of the season is so that way you can recharge your batteries, get set for the second half of the season, the second haul of the season, and you can get your team ready not only mentally, but also physically by giving them a chance to rest up, to get healthy, and get ready for that second half. If you have a bye week that's either in the beginning, like really early, or in the second half really late, that's going to cause problems. Now, having a later bye week, not as much, because it's like, hey, if you're doing really good and you're already in a chance to compete, actually having that late bye week will give you a chance to get rested and healthy, so that way when you're getting ready to play into late December and January, and you know the playoffs, you could potentially be in a position to benefit from that. But nobody, I repeat, nobody almost benefits from having a really early bye week, because it's like, okay, if you're trying to compete for something and you are, trying to get yourself in a position to maybe get into a playoff run, having an early bye week is not really going to help you a whole lot, because now it's like, oh, your bye week's week 5 or week 6 or something like that, which, by the way, that's every other NFC division opponent that we have as far as our rivals. Because, oh, that's right, the Packers have their bye week, if I recall correctly, it's week 5. Same with the Bears. The Vikings have theirs week 6. They got super early bye weeks, which that's not going to help them at all. The reason why it's not going to help them is because, let's say, for example, the injury bug hits them. Or maybe it doesn't. But it's like, now you've got freaking 10, 11 games left, and you're not going to get a break from any of that. It's going to be like one week after another, domino after domino that you've got to face, and that's going to be a grueling grind to bear with. And that's going to be something that's going to really test the mettle of those teams. And again, even if they don't have injuries, that's going to be tough. But if they have injuries on top of that, it's like, dude, the Packers and the Vikings, obviously they're going to try and make the postseason again this year like they did last year. But if you have injuries early on and you have to deal with an early bye week, which means, oh, by the way, you're not going to potentially get those players back until late in the season when you're absolutely going to need them, but they've been on the lam for the last, whatever it is, month or two, trying to recover from an injury, that's going to really hurt them. So the fact that the Lions got a great selection for their bye week, the fact that the Lions don't have to travel a whole lot, the fact that the Lions got a massive amount of freaking primetime slots, and on top of that, that the majority of their road games that are outdoors are played in the early parts of the year when the weather should be absolutely perfect for them, the NFL really gifted the Lions with a beautiful schedule. Just like Jim Carrey used to do it in the movie, Bruce Almighty. Beautiful. I'm telling you, people might look at the schedule and say, well, David, we still have all these opponents that we still have to... Yeah, I understand it, but we've known about the opponents now for months. The Lions have known about the opponents for months. They've known who they're going to be getting ready to play for. The opponents are not as, The opponents are not as a big of a factor as knowing when you have to play them, how they're stacked up in relation to other opponents. And again, the way I said it, the schedule is broken down to where it's so balanced to where the Lions don't have to worry about constantly having to deal with one great opponent after another. Now, I know some people are going to be like, well, what games are you looking really forward to watching? I'm going to tell you this right now. The games that I'm looking really forward to watching, the Bengals matchup against Joe Burrow, because I'm telling you already, I think that's going to be a shootout. I think that between Goff and Burrow, they're just going to absolutely light the damn scoreboards up. I wouldn't be surprised if that game ends with both teams scoring 30 or 40 points and Goff and Burrow just have a field day. That's one game that I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, the other game I'm looking forward to is the Commanders game. I'm telling you this right now. That game is probably circled on every Lions player's calendar because they're looking for revenge. They are looking for being able to to extract some revenge from the divisional game loss last year. Obviously, I'm looking forward to the Eagles game because the Eagles are the team that went to the Super Bowl last year. They won the Super Bowl, so hey, if we can go into Philadelphia, which is what we're supposed to do, and we can beat Philadelphia at their own game, that's going to go a huge way to adding even further credibility to the fact that the Lions can actually win and go to a Super Bowl. Another game that I'm really looking forward to, obviously, is, the game when we play against the Ravens, because we haven't played against the Ravens a whole lot. The last time that we did, we got shellacked. We got absolutely swatted. So seeing how we play against the Ravens, one of the best teams in the AFC, is something that I'm looking forward to. And then I would say the other games that I'm really looking forward to is obviously the games against the Bears. I don't care if it's home or away. I'm looking forward to those games because I cannot wait to see what we do when Ben Johnson comes to town or when we go to Chicago. And thank God we don't have to wait long because we play the Bears at home at Ford Field in week 2. So we ain't going to have to wait long for that. And then finally, and again, I'm not saying finally because it's the least important for me. I'm just saying out of all the games, the last game that I'm really looking forward to is Patrick Mahomes versus Jared Goff, round 3. Because the last 2 times Goff and Mahomes have played, Goff has won. So it would be the 3rd time that those two have played against each other. And again, much like the last time they played, we have to go to Kansas City to play them. It'll be a primetime slot. It'll be Goff's 3rd chance to once again show that, hey, you know what? Against Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, we can go in, we can handle business, and we can get the dub. So, again, for me, I just look at this situation and I'm just absolutely ecstatic. I am just wholly 100% happy with this schedule. I know some people might not have the same enthusiasm as I do, but it's like, listen, you take a look at how this schedule could have been, the Lions made out like bandits. This is a perfect schedule for what the Lions are looking for as they get ready for a Super Bowl run. And I think the way that this schedule has come out, I believe that the Lions are in one of the best positions, even despite how difficult the schedule is in terms of rank of strength of last year's opponents. I think they're in a perfect position to make a Super Bowl run this year. They have the right bye week. They have the balance of the schedule. They have the primetime slots. They have everything that the NFL has given them to be able to make and prove that they are ready for a Super Bowl this year. Now, obviously, getting what they've gotten, they have to go out and they have to earn it. They have to go out and they have to show it. And I believe 100% that they will. But anyway, folks, I've said my piece on this. I'm really excited about the upcoming schedule as far as when we start playing the games, but obviously we have still some more stuff to go through. We have the remainder of OTAs, we have, training camp, preseason, all that, so that's going to be now what we're focusing on. I've got other content that I'm working on. But until that time, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all, please make sure that you share this content, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever, because it continues to help the channel to grow, and we're so close to getting to 10,000 subscribers. Can't believe I'm actually saying that, but dude, you guys have been an awesome community. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Hopefully I was able to give you guys something to really think about, maybe a different perspective, and maybe also if you were feeling still concerned about the schedule, maybe calm some of those fears, or maybe give you guys a perspective where it's like, hey, maybe the schedule's not as bad as what I thought it was. And I also hope everyone has something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. Whether it's the first time you guys are watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I always hope you guys have something in your life that makes you happy. Hopefully you guys have something that also, gives you a reason to smile every day. But until the next time we meet, I just want to say God bless and go Lions.